A moment of silence, please, for what may be the most tragic casualty of this season of Game of Thrones. And that is the characterization of Brienne of Tarth. Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 4. Look, there are some things that Game of Thrones consistently did well, at least for a while. They almost always do well, and that they never do well. Game of Thrones used to, they seem to have lost their talent for it, but for a while they were very good at building up towards something. You weren't always sure what, but honestly those, like the first 4 seasons were just build-up, and it was expertly laid build-up. What they are usually good at is spectacle, when they decide that the build-up is actually going to result in a thing. Whether that be a one-on-one fight like the Mountain versus the Viper, or if it's going to be large-scale, something like the Assault on the Wall, or what have you. What, at least to my taste, they have never been good at is the lull after the big thing. And which is a shame, because you kind of need the lull after the big thing, at least a slight one, otherwise it just becomes relentless. But they really kind of suck at it. This episode was really hard for me, and I think this is the episode that I've had the hardest time getting through, and that I groaned at the most since The Bear and the Maiden Fair, which is my least favorite episode of the show. So, for folks who weren't watching me, 7 years ago or whatever, and don't feel like going back to when the camera was crap and I didn't know what I was doing. My issue with The Bear and the Maiden Fair is they basically took every subplot I didn't care about, i.e. every romantically tinged subplot, and crammed it all into one single episode, which did mean that basically all those plot lines weren't stinking up everything else, but it did make that one episode absolutely insufferable. It basically treated it as ripping off a Band-Aid, but man, that Band-Aid friggin' hurt. And I get a very similar vibe from this. Not that the romantic stuff is the only thing going on here, but basically everything that was going on here was stuff that I either didn't care about, don't like, or centered on characters who I don't really enjoy anymore. There are a handful of decent moments. Bronn. Thank God Bronn showed up halfway through this thing and livened the thing up. I love Bronn. He's great. I love that he is just standing there with a crossbow saying, I'm not fighting in this battle for you. But you're going to give me stuff for not killing you, and you better own up to it, because I may not be in the war anymore, but I'm not above killing people. And, he was great. It was great. I love Bronn. Tormund was fun. Ridiculous giant man. He was fun. Seeing Arya and the Hound together again, that was nice. But these are all tiny, flitting moments, and almost everything else made me frigging cringe. Where do we even start? I'm probably not even going to remember all of it at this point. My brain's already trying to expunge it from my head. So, Daenerys. Look, I do not want her on the throne at this point. She has been such an inconsistent character in terms of whether or not she's supposed to be depicted as a good leader or not. I get that they've been trying to go for this balance of she wants to be a liberator, but she has, tyrannical instincts. They haven't been balancing that, though. They just have her flip back and forth, depending on the story of whatever episode is given, and they're pushing her back towards tyrannical ruler again. So, we've got that going on, and the whole thing between her and Jon, I still don't like it. First of all, I still don't buy the degree of the romantic connection, so the idea that either one of them is even vaguely considered throwing things away in order to accommodate each other, I'm like, nope. Conversation between Tyrion and Varys, that was decent. It was nice to see some people talking rationally about this. Sansa had some decent moments. Sansa and the Hound, that was a good moment. I like that the Hound says, if you'd come with me, you never would have gone through all this stuff. And she said, well, if I hadn't gone through all that, I'd still be that same little bird. And I like the acknowledgement that for all the crap that she has been through, it is what has made her who she is. And while she doesn't automatically paint that as and therefore it's okay. It is nice to see an acknowledgement that, look, I survived and something came of that. So, cool. That was a decent moment. The whole thing with Euron taking down another dragon, I know that they were going for, the sudden kind of death with the dragon, but, I didn't care. Look, we've already lost it. We had the surprise of losing a dragon last season for the first time, so the novelty of just losing a dragon is kind of gone, and I'm sorry, the dragons aren't characters. They're props. I was always way more invested in the direwolves than I was in the dragons. And also, leaving Ghost behind. That was dumb. That was really dumb. Okay, I get the explanation. Oh, he belongs in the north. Fine, but direwolf! Okay. So, let's get on to more of the romantic stuff. So, I get why it happens. Gendry does his whole, I'm a lord now, with Arya, and he gets down on one knee, and, I like Arya's reaction to it, but I hate the scenario, and I hate the situation, and Gendry looked like a friggin' moron. I do like that Arya has a callback to her very first episode, I'm not a lady, that's not me. Good! I'm glad she remembered who she was, because Brienne didn't. Look, I know that the tension, romantic, sexual, whatever the hell, tension between her and Jaime has been a thing for a while, but I didn't buy it back in the Bear and the Maiden Fair. I kind of worked with it a little bit, when it sort of came up a little bit later, but that felt more ambiguous between romantic interest and camaraderie from having traveled together. But now it's unambiguously romantic again, and I don't like it and don't care. Oh, let's take this character who has been absolutely defined by her sense of duty and her desire to serve a greater good, and have her break down in tears, because a guy decided to sleep with her, which has never happened before, and she's a virgin. Oh, God. And I also don't love, this is now 2 virginity losses in a row, 2 episodes in a row, and look, people didn't seem to get my issue with Arya, so I'm not going to try and explain it again, because I don't know how to, other than I just didn't like it. But this, it completely redefines what is important to this character, and it's wrong. It's wrong! I'm sorry, it's wrong. So, just... Look, and I'm probably reacting to this more harshly than other people do, because I don't like romantic subplots 95% of the time, and I never really saw a benefit. Again, the general bonding between Jaime and Brienne, fine. You want a hint at that kind of chemistry? Okay. But when you make it actually motivate their direct actions, no! No! I don't want it. I don't like it. I hate it. I hate it. It's... And here's the thing, and I mentioned this, and I'll mention it here now because maybe it'll help people get it. The problem is the pattern, not every instance. Sometimes these sorts of things can work. My problem is, it is such a default for basically every single story, especially on a TV show where characters are put together and you get actor chemistry going on, that anytime there is a male and a female character put in isolation for a long enough stretch of time, that they fall in love with each other. And I just am sick of it. At this point, I don't care if you do it well, which I would argue this doesn't, but even if it did, I still wouldn't like it because I'm sick of that. You serve me the same dish day after day after day, I'm going to be sick of it, even if you present me with, this is the most masterfully cooked this dish will ever be. I don't care. I'm sick of it. I never came to this show for romantic subplots. About the only one that I cared about at all was Jaime and Cersei. And that's not because, I wanted them together. It was because it drove interesting plot, right off the bat. He pushed a kid out a window because of that. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's not like I was invested and wanted them to succeed, but that was a romantic entanglement that actually drove the plot. in an interesting and unexpected way, as opposed to, oh, these two people care for each other, you know exactly where that's going. But the only other time that worked for me eventually was with Ygritte. Now, initially when Ygritte and Jon Snow hook up, hated it. Again, Bear and the Maiden Fair. God, do I hate that episode. So it ends with them kissing on the, like, oh God, I hated it so much. But then he turns his back on her and she shoots arrows into his back. Good. That was awesome and that was amazing, and I needed that catharsis to cleanse me of the crap of these stupid friggin'... I don't like when romantic subplots inject themselves and demand screen time and start causing characters to behave in ways inconsistent with how they used to behave previously in a show that is not about that. I hate it in Game of Thrones. I hate it wherever I see it. I hate it in movies. I hate it in TV. I hate it in books. I hate it in comics. I hate how romance makes people dumb. I'm really, 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 really sick of it. And yeah, that'll do it. Whatever the heck this episode was called, I can't even remember. You've seen it, what did you think about it? You're probably not as ticked off as I am. I'm sure most people aren't. I'm probably the only one who gets annoyed by this, but whatever your thoughts are, drop them down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Other stuff to do down there. Patreon, really, really appreciated. Plus, other links to check out. There's merch. There's things to do. Click on links and check them out, or don't. You don't have to. I'm not going to force you to deal with it like shows like this force us to deal with romantic entanglements, because at the end of the day, I understand that you are the council, and I'm only running the meetings. So until next time, this council is adjourned.